What's up? Happy Friday, guys. Happy to be here for Fine Line Friday, joined with Will Riley. What's up?
Good, good. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Today
Love it.
is the day that we give free leads out to everybody. Everybody gets free leads today. Almost sounds fake, right?
But how's that sound?
Uh, fake. Fake and not real. And like, there's always this like unicorn at the end of the rainbow, right?
So we really have to really back this up then with free leads.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. So,
Yeah.
what I'm talking about is opportunities that your business can create probably right now at this exact minute, at this exact second. Where most of the time when I think of like more leads, it's like, oh man, okay, we're going to start telemarketing, right? Or we're going to start having to do cold calls or isn't that what you think when it's like more leads?
It is. And what effort are we going to pay for and what kind of results are we going to get? And we're not really sure how it's going to pan out. Absolutely.
Yep. So what I'm going to talk about is leads that cost you absolutely nothing that you can probably go and get at this exact moment right now. And it'll have the highest close ratio, or it should have the highest close ratio that you have in your entire business. So I'm going to start with what I call a post job proposal. And I call it a post job proposal. I know Centerpoint has SiteBid in there. You had a couple names for them, right?
Yeah. Or hot sheets, right? I think those are pretty common.
Hot sheets, yep. So I love that because that almost goes into like one of the other ones that we recorded, which was service identity, right? And I think that goes into communication, right? What does your team call these? And I know I'm not going directly into where you guys are at, or into the free leads yet, but like, what's the terminology when I say, hey, did you do a post job proposal? Hey, did you do a hot sheet? We got to figure out the name first. Because what I'm talking about is your guys are on site right now on a roof somewhere, I'm assuming, and there are additional deficiencies beyond the ones you guys are doing. That's almost like 100% of the buildings. Will you agree with that, sir?
Absolutely.
So we're talking about being on a roof, finding additional deficiencies using your technician. So, Will, how much was this a part of your business process when you were running service divisions?
It was so much a part of our business process that we were reliant on it. And it wasn't just about that work that we got right then and there. It was the work that propelled far beyond what we could even see into the future. It was ingrained in our DNA that I don't care if it was a service tech, a sales rep, project manager, that we all knew how to capture that and to turn it in.
So I love that word. You were reliant on it. So the sales that you were getting were dependent on your techs in the field finding additional deficiencies. No salesman, no cold calling, no nothing like that. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I mean, every building that we were on, whether it was a service call fixing a warranty or a leak, it was post inspection for maybe we just were punching out a project, we're doing closing inspections, we're an estimator's going looking at a building, right? All the above, because to the extent of having opportunities just right in front of you, and it seems small, but it was so significant because we often overlook the small things that can become significant.
So it's the word that comes to mind is like a micro win, right? And
Mm.
I'll even go to the extreme side of just saying a client calls in and they're like, "Hey, I need a roof replacement." And everybody runs out there because it's a roof replacement, right? Okay, some big project. But the first thing that goes to my head is that they're replacing this roof probably because some type of problem is big enough for them to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. First off, if you really break that down and think about it, like that's insane, right?
Mm.
There's a problem that's worth spending 250,000, quarter of $1 million to be able to fix. But that's like every single day, right? Depending on how big you guys are in the commercial roofing side, that's every single day. But the fact of the matter is that we talk about these free leads that are coming in. One of the first ones that I'll give you guys is every replacement that you have, if you don't have a service proposal to be able to bridge them from this exact moment to the time the project is done, you are missing a free lead. And probably a lot of free leads because they're probably having leaks in the building, which is causing them to be able to replace it. And depending on how far your backlog is out, how long it takes the customer to award it, if I met with a customer today and they were like, hey, I'd like to replace my roof, my first question before I even go into that is, what are you guys doing between right now and the time the roof's replaced? Did you have anything like that inside your business, Will?
We did, and I would say that that was is equally impactful, where you just mentioned at the tail end of a project having a service agreement. That was equally as impactful as the front end, where we just acquired this new opportunity with the new client that we had to start from the very beginning. Uh, to your exact example, we close out this job and we attach a maintenance agreement to it. And it could be something really simple where, look, we're going to come out here a couple times a year and help you remain warranty compliant. But guess what? They could have connected buildings. They could own other buildings. They could have, further opportunities even within that same organization. I know that you measured this very closely, the close rate on these hot sheets, these site bids. We're also kind of coupling in service agreements or some form of maintenance program into it. But you tracked the close rates on it. They were well above 50%, were they not?
They were. They were. I had 60 plus percent. And there are tricks to it, right? So number one, what we're talking about is not a $10,000, $15,000, I have to go budget for this. When I said micro commitment, there was a reason I said that because these are small areas for you guys to be able to move the relationship ahead. And I can talk about Centerpoint with this because so many of the contractors I work with are so worried about getting that big sale, right? I don't care if it's a re-roof, it's inspecting the whole building, whatever it is. And what I explain to them is like, all right, first off, we want the customer to love working with us. We would love for them to be able to love the repairs we do, but like that world is sadly going away, right? They love the documentation, but they don't care how pretty the lines are. A lot of that stuff's going away. So when you get these micro commitments, so let's say you go out and you're doing a big inspection, okay, on a building, 10 sections, all that kind of different stuff. These hot sheets would allow you to be able to have a micro commitment from a customer. So let's say you go out, you're inspecting the building, and you find some punctures directly into the system. Now, you're doing an inspection, and I'll tie all this together for you guys, right? But you're doing an inspection on a building, you find some punctures. Being able to do a hot sheet real quick or a post job proposal or some of those other areas would allow you guys to be able to take them through your world pretty quickly because they would get the updates, right? They would get the automatic updates. They would be able to get to see the work, the before and after stuff that you guys are doing. They would get the invoice. They would be able to see that entire world, which ultimately, I mean, that's how I won customers is through our communication, the experience, all that kind of different stuff. Like it was just so cool to be able to see the customer get the entire experience, right? Even just from a $200 or $300 upsell, which at the end resulted inside hundreds of thousands of dollars. I
Yeah,
know I went deep there, but I mean, do you see that same thing happening?
I do, and I love the term.
I do, and I love the term.
And it's not like you have to
And
wait
it's not like you have to.
time for one big project to have one chance at it. You can have many chances over. And each chance you have, those micro commitments where they're authorized, gives you a chance to show up and to do the work and to show your client how you're servicing that or doing that work. Then you're closing out, they're paying your invoice, right? Multiple times over gives you lots of chances to further that relationship. So it all ties together. Absolutely.
And I use the replacement because chances are there are a lot of replacements in our book of businesses because that is typically the longest sales cycle, right? Which means if I met Will, you had a building, I met with you today, and you're like, hey, I want to replace the roof. One, we got time frame from the time we meet right now till we get the proposal in your hand. That's one time frame. The second time frame is from when I put the proposal in your hand to the time you award it, which on a re-roof side is months or quarters, right? Like 3 months, 4 months, depending on where the cash is and how far it's out. That's where those micro commitments come in and make you guys so powerful that you already have these opportunities in your book of business. You've already quoted this re-roofs that are maybe, let's just say they're a week out, they're a month out, they're a year, whatever it is. They're probably doing that replacement not because it's on a clock and it's 20 years, the warranty's running out, but probably because they have problems. So to be able to tie that in was so cool when I was on the sales side, because I would be able to say, this is what you guys can expect after you get the roof put on. Right. And like that's what ties in the whole life cycle of the thing is like you don't have to wait to see the service that you're going to get. And it was just so powerful to be able to tie that into the business structure to be able to say, yeah, you're going to spend $250,000, but this is what you can expect for anything beyond that, right? For the next 20 or 30 years.
And talk about sustainability too in a business, which is what we all seek. We all want to be recession proof. We all want to not, worry about what the market's going to dictate in terms of sales. And the best way to be able to do that is to land as many of your clients up in terms of future sales, not the right here, right now. You just mentioned that roof replacement. That could take 3 months to actually come in and close. But if you look at every building you get on and you were to place them in a bucket, and it's like the, expectancy, for example, of roof expiration, 20 years out, 15 years out, 10 years out, 5 years out. If you were to come up with your buckets and you put each building in one of those buckets, it becomes about managing the timeline. But if you fill the hopper, your company's hopper with all these buildings, these prospects, these customers, and you knew where they were within each of those buckets, then it's consistently getting sales throughout, grouping in repairs, replace, and just really it changes the game too. And you're right, it all does tie together because it's life cycle. Love, life cycle. How much have you done with life cycle?
Well, I mean to me that's the ultimate goal is how do you get to a point to where and let's just start, right? We put the roof on. And then how do you get to a point to where I don't want to say guarantee, right? It's not a lock, it's not anything
Hmm.
like that, but you have programs in place to be able to help them throughout that entire duration of that system to the point that it needs to be replaced again. And a lot of newer contractors, they don't have that, right? And even some of the, I don't want to say older, but more seasoned companies that have been 30, 40, 50, plus years inside business, they're seeing these roofs come back, but there's still parts that they're missing within the life cycle. There's still another contractor that is servicing that roof. And like to me, that's the ultimate goal is that when you have all of the systems and processes in place, that customer sticks with you throughout the entire duration. Like that to me is the win from what am I building? I'm building something that manages the one asset that we take care of, right? Commercial roofing, all the way from the time we install it to the time it needs to be replaced and reinstalling it again.
Hmm. Yeah, and so free leads. Well, the leads that we're specifically talking about aren't, we didn't say free roof replacement leads right here today. This will lead to those free leads in the future, but you got to be willing to invest in the right here, right now. So the free leads, you're walking by them every day. You're right. Right here, right now, in this moment, you could be capturing those opportunities, presenting them to the client, engaging and aligning them with your life cycle and stay in touch with them too. So how about this? You mentioned earlier at the call. What about a new initiative, ad spend, LinkedIn, Facebook, billboard, whatever, you name it. We're about to invest money into some form of ad spend. How about what are all the buildings we're walking by? What about all the buildings we're driving by? You know, how often are you canvassing your own industrial complex to see what customers you align with? Or how about this? What about your own accounting program? If you're a roof replacement contractor, have been for some amount of years, that's what I tell people. It's the best place to look. You've got how many years of customers, of sold customers in your database, in your accounting program? Don't you think that's the best place to start, especially if you want to grow this initiative?
That so out of sight, out of mind is what I always think, right? It's like, oh yeah, I already replaced that roof. We replaced that roof 5 years ago, 10 years ago, wherever it is, and we're on the search for the next replacement. And I don't want to stay in there because service is beyond consistent, right? Just like you said, we replaced the roof on one section. It's a big industrial facility. They got 20 sections. I'm going to assume that they have a replacement every single year, or they should, if it's on a 20-year spin, right? 20-year span. Perfect world. If not, we talked about free leads, right? So free leads, number one, every single roof replacement opportunity that you guys have, if you do not have a service bid, right? A service proposal to them to bridge the gap between today and the time that roof is completed. Because just because you started the job does not mean their issues are gone. Let's just be super clear on that. It's not until that job is done. And if that job has a 6 month, 8 month, 12-month duration, that's a year before they have any type of resolution. So, what can you guys do between right now and the time that roof is done? Huge part there. So, that's number one. Number two, and I'll get into drops in a second because that's what you're talking about. Number two is your technicians. Chances are, if you have service crews, they're on jobs right now. And most of the time, those technicians are on a search and find mission. Leaks coming in right here. I have to find the exact point of entry, right? Which is hard enough to be able to fix that specific item. But are your technicians walking around and finding additional items that are going to help that life cycle, that are going to help get more life out of that roof? And I call it a post-job proposal because once the job is done, post-job, right? I want a proposal for what repairs, what improvements, what did they see out there that would help extend the life of that roof? And that's the crazy part. When you guys get 50 leaks, just imagine this. If you guys got 50 leaks in a big, massive rainstorm, 20 leaks, 10 leaks, whatever it is, what if you had 10 proposals for additional proactive items based upon what your technicians found to customers that are already buying from you? Like, that's awesome. Your salesmen have 10 more opportunities, 20, 50, whatever it is. But now you guys are stepping into that, what I call a trusted advisor, right? That you're going to help the customer proactively manage their building versus just reactively respond to it. And I think that's what you're talking about a little bit earlier, right, Will? That the service world was dependent on it, right?
Oh yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.
And I'm going to emphasize
I'm going
that
to emphasize
ended on
that.
it because
Ended
it
on
literally propelled all future sales. Not to say that estimating wasn't still processing work and bid work and all of that, but absolutely. And the more that we could demonstrate, and I love the term micro commitment, over those micro commitments that, we're here, and we're not selling too, but we're here fixing your leak, right? And my technician who knows roofing has identified other issues. And those other issues, they may not be leaking right now. But I feel like a lot of time the technicians feel like I don't want to, do that because I feel like I'm selling them something. You're doing them a favor. If there's 5 boots on a roof, one that is leaking right now, when we go out and we fix that one boot, but there's 4 others just like it, right? Where it needs a new clamp or new boot, new sealant, whatever it is. If you quoted those 4 other boots and said, look, we could do it for $1,000, you save that client over the lifetime at least five to $1,000, right? Versus repeat trip charges, where we could just group those items like kind, get it done, micro commitment. We look good. We also know where they fall within our life cycle, manage it. That to me was what it was all about, that churn.
I did an initiative in the Midwest when I was a general manager at a service division. It was 20 to 35,000 every single month, and it was for 5 months in a row.
Hmm.
So what I did is every single week we would look at the site bids that were created, and we would report on exactly what was happening with those site bids. That was the coolest part, is that it was not just that we were creating the site bids, it's that the technicians had an incentive plan that if they sold, they got something from it. So I actually had my my service foremans calling the sales rep saying, "Hey, talk to me. Did that job sell? Did that job sell?" And I had a
That's
dry erase board inside the office where they met that said sales for the week. So they would actually understand where they were, and they were doing it for the bonus that they got at the end of the month. It was so cool when you tied everybody into it. Now, and you're right, because you said technicians might feel like they're not doing the right thing. I think that's the easiest way to put it, right? We say integrity or wherever it is, but you're right, because one service job is approximately $750. Go out there, fix that one boot. And over the next 6 months, if those other four fail, we're ultimately talking about $3,000 in reactive repairs. That's just roofing. That does not count what happened in the building, right? Did they have damaged product? Did they have to move stuff around? Was there stained ceiling tiles? Did they have to repaint the walls? I mean, all the different stuff that no one really thinks about. The customer still incurs all of that. So for it's actually negligent, in my opinion. It's negligent for us not to look for additional items because most of the time my customers expect me to be the expert up there, right? And Will, I explained this to my and this is a piece that really helped that. If you have a membrane, this is a statement, sorry if anybody doesn't agree with it, but if you have any type of membrane and there is water getting by it, I don't care if it's a pinhole or if it's 6 foot of open seam, that system is failing. Bottom line. Now, the pinhole might take 8 months for a leak to develop because it's got to go through the insulation, it's got to go through the decking, there's a second system, whatever it was. But at the end of the day, my job is to be able to make sure that the roofing system that's on that building is correctly diverting water away from the building and off it. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%.
So as soon as there's a puncture or an open seam, I feel that it's my responsibility to either A, fix it, right? If we got the contract, time, material, or whatever it is, or B, notify the customer.
Yeah.
And
You know,
every time that we get, go ahead, sorry.
yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, but in
No,
notifying the customer too, it's a chance to, show them who you are, right? And what you're about and how you communicate. So it's not like you're putting a lot on the customer. Like they do deserve to know. I like the way you put it because they do deserve to know. How long do sealants last? What, 7 years, depending on who you ask? The number one
yeah,
cause of roof failure is the installation, right? And there's defects there. Sealants are deteriorating after 7 years. Whether we like it or not, maintenance is a huge part of these roofs' life cycles, and you can't, someone's got to be there from year 7 to year 20 in managing that asset, and that's where life cycle really comes into play. I put it this way: for a technician walking by that 4 foot open seam, of course they should report it, but even if it's a pinhole, absolutely. But it's like, who would you rather tell you what's wrong with your AC unit, your roof, your driveway, whatever it is? The technician who knows his trade, or the salesperson with, a sales training background? Who would you rather tell you?
yeah, and I can tell you, I can tell you from a technician side, there's so much, and I say this just because I've been there. There's so much trust inside the technician saying, "Hey, I found a couple other issues up there," right? And it's
Hmm.
adding value to the customer. So there's just so much behind it that can help the client better run their business. And that's my goal. At the end of this is how do I help the customer run a better business? And I don't care if it's a school, right? What happens when there's a roof leak in a school? Will it disrupt the kids? What happens when it happens in a food manufacturing plant? Well, now I have health safety issues. I mean, this all goes back to helping that business run efficiently as possible. Almost every single building, right, requires some type of roof. They're protecting something. And it's my job to be able to help that happen.
I love where your head's at and your space occupies, because you go even further and you remind us all that it's not just from what the contractor sees in, on the roof and to the client. You go beyond that. And I love that you do that because you remind me too. You're right. It's about their experience and like what that leak means to the kids in that classroom, to the slip fall hazard, hazard, to the processes that they have to go through. So I love these conversations because they bring both worlds together. But you're right. It's all about that life cycle and managing every asset. And there's free leads throughout every step of that client's journey. And how do we best, stay there and stick with them and not overlook those leads. You're going to talk about drops, and I'm curious too how that plays in, because we're so focused on the right here, right now, the building. We're talking about life cycle. That's a 20-year lifespan potentially. What else is there?
So we talked about replacements. Every replacement you have, you should have some type of service proposal to them to help bridge the gap for whatever problems they're having. We
Hmm.
talked about our technicians that are probably on roofs right now. Open your eyes, look around. How can we help them make sure that their business has no failures? Right? That's connected into the roof. A pinhole or an open seam, both of them are a failing system. The question is just how long till that water gets in. Now you talk about drops. Drops is always scary to some people because when I first came into the industry, it meant going into an industrial park and stopping at every single building. Right? Was that kind of how you were brought into drops, Will?
Yeah, and I've been there and I've had to do that. So it is intimidating once it till you get started.
It is. It is. And the one thing that I recognized is that after COVID, a lot of stuff changed. So number one is that people literally put locks on the door and put walls up. And those walls haven't necessarily always came down. So it's harder to do drops, especially in like I'm going into a neighborhood to just or inside an industrial park to go do it. So on the drop side, number one is that we want to understand that time is the most important thing to us. So we don't necessarily just want to go waste a whole day in an industrial park. So what I typically say, and again, this is for anybody, left, right, across the street. Because in order to be able to get a new lead, you have to have a couple things. The biggest thing is you have to have trust. That means someone is going to trust you to get on the roof. Someone's going to trust you to help solve the problem or get them to a goal, right? So trust is hard to earn, but it comes very quick if it is local, which means it's a friend, a family member, or in this case, the neighbor is already using you. Someone already knows you. You already have social proof, if you will. And that's why I always say left, right, across the street. Because if you meet with Jim at his building and then you go to the building to the left, you're going to say, hey, I just finished up. I'm going to be inspecting Jim's building next door on Tuesday and just wanted to see if you guys had anything going on. You instantly showed, right? Jim trusts me enough to be able to get on the roof, which is a big part of starting. You gave the social proof that you're working next door. A lot of those walls come down, right? And in my mind, I just want to prevent you from calling a roofer that's going to drive from the other side of town when literally my truck is going to be next door. What's your world in that? Have you ever had technicians doing drops? Have you ever had, I mean, salesmen, right? Go find opportunities. But what about the rest of your business? How have you kind of tied that in?
Yeah, good question. Drops, absolutely. In my world, it was before COVID, and it's funny because starting out managing a sales team of six, seven sales reps, and you're telling them if they don't have sales, where's the quotes? If they don't have quotes, what buildings did you get on, right? What meetings did you have? And you reverse into all the initial touches it takes, and drops are a big part of that. So when reps didn't do the appropriate number of drops or they said it was too hard, it's like, all right, you know what? I'm going out there with you. I'm going to show you myself that you could do 50 drops by noon. All right. So we picked a part of town, we parked the truck, and we literally hit those 50 before noon. And you'd walk in, say, hey, I'm looking for the person that's in charge of roofing. Here's who we are. Here's what we do. We care about whole life cycle, right? And we gave them our offering, our value proposition, and I would say, what, three of them turned to actual inspections before noon? So, absolutely, big part of the world. Now, technicians, we at least had them go drop off cards and shake hands. They were a little timid too to want to, felt like they weren't in that right position to go knock on the next door, but they did over time and it did actually
Yeah,
land
I
sales.
didn't mean to interrupt you. I was like, they hate it, right?
Yeah, it was
Um,
uncomfortable.
yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry, go ahead.
No, we're good. It was just uncomfortable for them, right? But they did knock on the next door, and it often did create some new opportunities for us. It just took a while for them to break out.
It's the headspace side of thinking that they're selling somebody. And I run in that every single time that I ask a technician to go to the building next door. He's like, nah, dude, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do drops. And you have to get him back into the I'm helping him, right? Like this guy, just think about this. This guy is literally going to call someone from across town. He's going to pay for someone to drive 45 minutes to the building when you're literally next door. So in my mind, I'm doing a disservice to the local people around there. And before we jumped on this, I gave you a real world example of I needed my driveway seal coated. And I still remember this to the day. I watched because I live kind of down a gravel drive. I watched this guy drive down to my neighbor's house, pull into his driveway, give him a quote, and then drive past my house. I was in the driveway. If this guy would have just pulled into my driveway, I needed somebody to seal coat my driveway. Like I truly did. And he just drove right back on the road, turned, and went. If you just would have stopped next door and said, "Hey, I'm steel coating Ed's driveway tomorrow. Would you like me to do yours too?" Yeah, I really do. Yeah, absolutely. That would help me. And I see this happen all the time that they're so shy, timid, or think that they're going to be in sales if they stop by. I don't want you to sell anything. I just want you to be able to understand that it's neglectful if we're not helping more people. And that's a big part of where I get the technician's mindset in the right spot. It's like, I don't care what they say. What I do care about is that they don't call someone else from across town. What I do care about is like all those different things that's going to cost them more money or more leaks because they can't find the right person when you're literally next door.
Love it. Love that. And I love the underlying message there is that you're there to help and that you ingrain that into even outside the service techs or service foreman, but to the sales team. We didn't like calling them salespeople. They were literally helpers. They were to go out into the market and help customers. Love it.
Yep. There's two things that I see. Typically, there's a problem that your customer wants to solve, but they can't. Because if they could, they wouldn't be talking to you. They just solve it, right? There's a goal that they want to get to. They have a vision of where they want to be, and they don't have the resources to do it. If they did, they would have already been there, right? They wouldn't need you. And then for everybody that does not have a goal or does not have a problem, so these are the buildings you walk into and says, "Hey, just want to see if you got anything going on, how I can help." And they're like, "Nope, we've been in the building for 5 years. We have no issues." It's education. We understand I can look at a building, a metal roof with trees overhanging it, and I can instantly tell you that the leaves are going to fall. They're going to get into the gutters. Gutters are going to fill up. It's going to roll in underneath those panels, and it's going to leak right on the backside. I can tell you that the fasteners are going to back out. I can tell you, I mean, we can look at this stuff and we instantly know as roofers. So from my side, stop selling stuff and start helping guys. Because it's not a matter of like if they need our help, it's when. And that to me, I guess, is the biggest part of this. If you want free leads, help. It's the biggest part of this. You got replacements there, guys. Get a service proposal. Help them bridge the gap between where they are right now to the time the roof is done. If you guys are on a building right now and your customer is reactively sending you out there and paying you to be able to fix it, trust me, they don't like it. They don't like reactively dealing with leaks as they pop up. Help them proactively manage it. And if you guys are at a building, help the neighbors. It's a huge part of it. Just stop by. Don't sell anything. Don't worry about selling anything. Help the neighbors. Tell them that you're literally right next door. And if they have a problem or a goal that they can't solve with their current resources, you guys are there. And if you can instill that into your company, you guys will be so inundated with opportunities that don't even connect to your sales team. That's the biggest win of this, is that this has nothing to do with your sales team.
That's true. I didn't realize that until just now, that it had nothing to do with your sales team. And you
Nothing.
commented too. At the very end of the life cycle, mid life cycle, and I guess before it all too, accounting program. What roofs have you done? Those are free leads sitting there that just need to be touched.
Yep. Yep. There's more, and we can obviously do a part two. You can go referrals, all kinds of different things to be able to set stuff up. But these are the biggest ones that are going to impact the business. If you guys are looking at your revenue for service, and you're not going to hit it this week. Here you go. Here's your answers. Execute on this. Right? If you guys are looking further down the road that these replacements keep getting pushed, I get it. But let me tell you something. The leaks aren't slowing down. The leaks aren't getting pushed. They're happening. So how can you guys help? So put yourself in that position to be able to help, right? And that's when you're going to start, or I'll say, stop getting commoditized and start becoming a partner to your customers. That's a huge part of it.
Help, help, help. Love it. Okay. Well, maybe we'll do a part two. We'll see.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
appreciate
Part two.
Yes, sir.
Cool guys. I know this was a big side on mine, so Will, thank you for letting me go through this and kind of jump through. Love the opportunity to do this, and it gives you guys 30 minutes to be able to work on your business every Friday. So Fine Line Friday, sign up. We got a whole bunch of awesome content that's coming through, and yeah, have a good one, guys.
See y'all.
See ya.